I have spent a lot of time being mediocre at Monster Hunter Rise. I've completed over 500 quests, and all but about a dozen were with the Gunlance. So here are 4 things that I've learned about this game after 500 quests with the Gunlance. Some people manage to put out good DPS with the Gunlance. I am not one of those people. I'm very much a slow and steady kind of boomsticker. With that in mind, I gear my playstyle and my builds around one thing: survivability. If I'm in a party, I do not want to be the guy that carts, ever. I want to be the guy that shows up and spends 25 minutes consistently poking a monster in the eyeballs. To that end, there are very few armor abilities that I actually care about. Poison resistance is good for certain monsters, but the biggest things I'm looking for in terms of skills are anything that increases defense or reduces stamina usage. More importantly than the skills is the defense value of the armor. I also make sure that I have things like Dango Defender saved in my favorite meals. And unless I'm joining an online party mid-quest, I always take the time to run around and grab a bunch of Spira birds, especially yellow and orange ones, the ones for stamina and defense. All of this is aiming toward one simple goal: to be able to tank even the hardest hits from the biggest monsters without losing significant amounts of health. Because I'm a Gunlancer, I don't have the mobility of an Insect Glaive user or the Counter-Strike capabilities of a Longsword user. What I do have is the ability to stack up ridiculous levels of defense, stand in front of a rampaging monster, and dare him to hit me with his best shot. And the only time that doesn't work out for me is when the monster's damage-dealing capabilities significantly outweigh my defense and healing abilities, or when the monster is so mobile that I just can't keep in front of it. And that leads me to: if survivability is your goal, then 2 healing palicos would make the most sense, right? And I have run that setup before on multiple quests. Rise has better mobility options for hunters on foot than any previous Monster Hunter game, but it is still painfully slow to traverse the map without your puppers. If that were the only downside to a 2 palico setup, I'd be a cat person all day long. But running Gunlance is also hard on the sharpness gauge, especially when using shells or worm stakes. And a 2 palico setup means I can only regain sharpness one of 2 ways: by timing a monster attack and using guard edge, or by sitting in one place while leisurely using the whetstone, which is fine if the only time I need to sharpen is when a monster has already fled the zone. But sometimes I'll get down to blue or green sharpness and still have the monster chasing after me, and it's then that I jump on my pupper's back and sharpen while moving. Long story short, I have stuck with the tried and true buddy system with 1 palico and 1 palamute, because each fulfills a vital role in my fighting strategy. My healing palico Coffee helps recover any damage I can't tank, or any time that I misjudge a monster's attack and take a big hit, while my palamute Dusk helps me run around collecting Spira birds before battle and gives me the mobility to sharpen during fights. But of course, you can't take both with you on group quests. In that case, the palico gets the edge because I figure with more hunters on the quest, I'll have a greater opportunity to duck back and sharpen when necessary. That does lead me to my next point, which is: Monster Hunter Rise is insanely fun when hunting online, even when joining randoms. It does have some drawbacks, though. I'm always conscious of the fact when joining an online hunt that no one is excited to see a Gunlance player show up. Hunting horn, sure. Everyone loves a good doot-doot player who manages to do damage to the monster while also buffing the entire party. But my utility to the group is limited, and the potential for me to be a hindrance rather than a help is a distinct possibility. The fact is, many of my explosive attacks can deplete my allies' stamina at best and knock them back at worst, leaving them open to follow-up attacks from the monster. Couple that with the fact that online quests require me to choose between my Palico and my Palamute, and I usually choose the Palico, leaving me far less mobile than the other hunters, and I feel distinctly guilty for joining random online hunts. These days, I only join randoms to clear difficult event quests, or if I have an urgent quest that I can't manage to clear solo. And Capcom, to their credit, has been incredibly accommodating to solo hunters. Nearly every quest in the game, with the notable exception of event quests, you can now take 2 NPC followers along with 2 buddies, in my case a Palico and Palamute. And you can choose the weapons, sort of, for your NPC followers and tweak their playstyle. While this doesn't perfectly replicate the experience of playing with others online, it does come close, and it makes me feel a lot less guilty when I'm throwing shells and worm stakes all over the place. Whether I'm hunting solo, sort of, or joining online hunts, the final thing I've learned to do when monster hunting is to... I've talked about this before in some of my Monster Hunter live streams, but there's one crucial thing I try to do during a hunt that determines how successful I'm going to be. All of the above steps are just preparation for this final piece of the puzzle for how I play Gunlance after 500 quests. This is how it all comes together, finding the rhythm of the hunt. See, when I play Gunlance, I spend a lot of time poking the monster in the face from behind my shield. But if I'm trying to stab the monster at the same time that the monster is trying to stab me, well, the monster is going to win that matchup pretty much always. So the idea here is that I have to find the rhythm of the monster's attacks to learn when to block and when to go on the offensive. That rhythm varies from species to species and even within species from monster to monster. Magnamalo, for instance, does a ranged attack with his tail. Some hunts I've seen the Magnamalo do that attack twice in a row every single time they did it. Other Magnamalo hunts, it's just once. Learning that rhythm is crucial for what I'm trying to do. Survive while doing consistent damage over time. It turns the hunt into a dance, where I have to learn the steps each time to determine if I can poke, 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 guard, or only poke, poke, guard. Does the rhythm of this monster hunt allow for shelling attacks, or do I need to play it safe with lance attacks? I also need to use guard edge against certain monster attacks to reduce their damage and regain weapon sharpness. When I get the steps of the dance right, it is such a fun, thrilling experience, relentlessly attacking the monster right up until the moment he attacks, using his attacks to sharpen my weapon, and then going back on the offensive. When I get the steps wrong, I end up flat on my back with half my health bar missing while my poor buddies run around trying to distract the monster. So that, in summary, is what I've learned after 500 quests with the Gunlance. Am I great at the Gunlance? Do I expect this video to be a comprehensive guide to anyone? No and no, unfortunately. But maybe it will give someone the little bit of help they need to run the boomstick more effectively. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.